As many of you know, there are hundreds of headlines in the news every day, but every now and then there's a particular story that really hits you hard. You can recall exactly where you were, what you were doing, and how you felt. January 28th, 1986 started as an average day. I was an intern covering a news conference in Austin about recycling. A city worker burst into the room, turned on the TV, and this is what we saw.
Space Shuttle Challenger, liftoff from a freezing cold Florida to the cheers of the young students of the first ever U.S. teacher astronaut. Moments later, full throttle and point of highest stress. A massive explosion.
That was 40 years ago. Because of the Teacher in Space project, thousands of students in schools watched it live. The Space Shuttle Challenger exploded just moments after liftoff, claiming the lives of 7 crew members, including 35-year-old astronaut and physicist Dr. Ronald McNair. Cheryl McNair joins us to share what her husband was like beyond the spacesuit, how she carried his story forward, and how he still encourages the next generation to reach higher and keep exploring. Good morning.
Good morning.
Before the show, we were talking about how you say, at any given time, you still have people who will come up to you and say, this is where I was at the time, and I remember him.
That is correct. Just anywhere all over the U.S.
Yeah.
People will always seem to remember that day, exactly what they were doing, and at what time.
Yeah.
You know,
and in that
it's amazing.
sense, in a way, he's still alive.
Well, that's true. Yes, and I'm so glad that his legacy is such that people would still remember and honor him.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, we're having a gala to do exactly that. Remember all the astronauts that were on the Space Shuttle Challenger at that time. It's my organization that's presenting this, and it's the Dr. Ronald E. McNair Dream, and that's not the sleep dream.
Yeah, but
it's
an acronym. Yeah.
Dream.
And we're going to talk about that foundation in just a second, because that is how his legacy is honored and the next generations can still explore. Let's go back to that day, though. And I can't imagine what that would have been like standing out there for everyone around the world, really, not just in the United States, but we were watching and people were watching, and you were there at the launch. What was the feeling like in the crowd? And as in any type of flight or anything like that, there's the excitement about it happening, but also in the back of your mind, please cross your fingers, please God, make everything go well.
Oh yeah, you always want them to go well.
Yeah.
You're always in the back of your mind praying and hoping and thinking and that everything goes well.
Yeah.
And we were actually a little bit away from most of the crowd because as families we had a little spot that we could see from the top of a building more closely than most of the other people that were watching it. And so, so we got an even closer view of what was going on.
And the conditions out there at Cape Canaveral, Florida, is what we're talking about, where that took off. The conditions, you say, you knew something was kind of off, just with the weather
they
itself.
had a couple of days that they were thinking to launch, and they were proposed to launch, but didn't. And in fact, that day we didn't think that it was going to launch because it was so cold. It was freezing.
You could see the ice.
You could see icicles all over the place, and you just knew. You didn't have to be a scientist to know. It's just too cold for everything to work right.
Yeah, and you had that shock and realization when it just fell to pieces there. And one of the things that was forefront in your mind too is, how am I going to raise my kids?
Well, yeah, I had never imagined myself as a single parent raising children. We had these plans of things that we were going to do and move back to South Carolina and help inspire the kids there in his hometown. His mother had wanted him to come back and do that, and he wanted to go back as he came from this very rural town.
He actually had very humble beginnings, born in South Carolina, as you mentioned, rural town, no running water or electricity in the home.
Well, not
early on,
where he was growing, when he was growing up, perhaps.
Yeah.
But a little bit later, they improved some of the conditions. But
his parents, his dad was an auto repairman, mom was a teacher. He was a curious, energetic, eager to learn type of kid. In fact, there was a situation that happened at a library once, which it was so funny. It's a great story, but it speaks to that kind of child who became that kind of adult.
Yes, yes. Well, you know, Ron didn't let obstacles come in his way. He just kind of found a way to work around them, which is a message that he had later for children across the, well, for anyone really across the U.S. That he, in speeches that he gave. But yeah, particularly that in the library was a situation where he just wanted a book. And one that went beyond his high school. He wasn't challenged enough in mathematics in the high school library, so he wanted to get one from the town library. And the librarian, as I understand it, told him no, he was not allowed to. And so he just sat there and stayed there.
He had a little sit-in.
Yeah. And they called the police, his mother, his father, and the police. And
Okay, I'm going to pause for a second. Can you imagine calling the police because there's a student who says, I would like to have an advanced math book. We are praying for that to happen today.
That is true.
So the police came, and then they worked it out.
Yes, the police came, and I believe either the pharmacist on the corner, so I've heard, came in and had to vouch for him. And his parents said, well, he's going to bring the book back. He just wants to read it.
And today that library is named after him.
Today that library is the History Life Center of Ron McNair, of Dr. Ronald McNair, with the murals on the walls of different things that happened in his childhood.
And how did you meet him? And when he first met you, did he see stars?
Well, I don't know if he first met me, but we met at a potluck dinner in a church, in St. Paul AME Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And, you know, we were eager as students to get a home-cooked meal, and so that's where we met. And then as we were walking one day, we decided not to have it at the church, but to go to a different facility, a home, I think it was, the home of the leader. And we were walking along, and Ron had been in a tournament and fought so well, so hard in this tournament that he won. He won the first prize. And I was walking along at the same time, but in a different direction, but we kind of met at the same place on the sidewalk where there were some hedges. And under the hedges, from under the hedges, ran out this little kitty. And I love kittens. And he reached down and picked out the kitten and started stroking it so gently. I just thought, oh, well, that kind of is nice.
Yeah.
Somebody who's fought all day and so fiercely that he won a tournament, a karate tournament, and he's gently stroking this kitten. Well, that's an interesting personality to explore.
And really, he has such a full personality.
Yes.
And it was that soft side, but also that competitive side, but also that side that wanted more and more knowledge.
Yes. I was amazed when he took me to his laboratory to see all the pipes and the wires and that he knew where they all went and how it worked. And I thought, what kind of mind is this? It's got to be quite
a brilliant mind.
Brilliant mind.
But he loved education. Right. Education is in your family as well.
Yes, I was a teacher. Yeah. And that's how the other organizations came along that were inspired by the legacy of those astronauts and that Challenger is my teacher background. And when Ron would come home and listen to me and what had happened in my day, I'd listen to him and what happened in his day. And I thought that was a good merger to have a STEM camp and teach children and have them be aware and really enjoy the sciences.
It's how you turn tragedy into purpose.
Yes.
And so lots of lessons were learned through watching how you handled things. And you know, people suffer loss of a loved one every day, every hour of the day, every minute of the day, someone's lost somebody. And how important was it to you to have a world, a country, a community to wrap their arms around you through this?
Oh, it was so very comforting to know that so many people cared. And then what do you do with so many people that are caring? Well, yes, you thank them. But another thing would be is to also give back to that community.
Yeah. And so to the DREAM Foundation, the Dr. Ronald McNair Educational Science Literacy Foundation, you do so many different things. As you mentioned, you focus on STEM, but you support aviation training through the Bronze Eagles of the Flying Club as well.
That's correct. Yes, yes. We did many experiments, exposed children to the sciences, and with the Bronze Eagles, they also fly children, about 200 per year at least. They take them flying to get them used to it, to see what this is like. They also take them in the airport, the control towers, so they can see.
Which we need more of those.
Yes. Yeah. Well, see, it's such a need these days, and I thought that's why, particularly this year, we would support that organization, the Bronze Eagles.
You have had to just rise up to resilience, a few more times in your life. You had a fire at your home. And in that fire, you lost some precious photos and memorabilia as well. But you got through that, and ongoing supporting education and the Challenger Remembrance. And like we mentioned, there's a whole new generations are watching now. One of our producers says he remembers he was in second, third grade, but he said it was one of the most memorable moments of his childhood to see that. And he's sure it left an impact on him in some way, but value of life is one of those ways. All right, the 40th anniversary commemoration honoring the Space Shuttle Challenger tragedy, your gala, and Houston is a gala having town. So your gala is, two great words, sold out. But,
it is, yeah, but people can still support scholarships for our youth, and that would be by donating, going to my website, which is Dream Foundation, not the sleep dream, but the acronym DREME Foundation.org, and donate to us so we can continue to support these other organizations and scholarships for our youth. And we've been supported so nicely by the Houston community. The sponsors like HEB has been wonderful, United Airlines has been wonderful, and I even person right there in my town, the accounting firm of Golke and Company, right there in El Camino, right near my home and near the Space Center. Wonderful accounting
and all those people you mentioned know that when they support those scholarships, they may be supporting the next employees that come and work with them one day.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And why not help improve those lives and make a better world?
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. For more information on the Challenger Center, you can visit challenger.org, and to connect to the Dream Foundation, as she mentioned, visit dreamfoundation.org. Not this type of dream, but DREME.